Bluff City Media presents Tigers Live with Francis Carlota. Join Francis after every Memphis Tiger game as he breaks down each matchup, player of the game, and upcoming games. Now, let's get to the show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tigers Live, presented by the Bluff City Collective. I'm your host, Francis Carlotta. Dang, y'all. I mean, I think we can kiss those at-large hopes goodbye, at least at this stage. That's a really tough loss on the road, 66-76 against the North Texas Mean Green at North Texas. And it's tough. We're looking at the worst case scenario for the season. All the hopes that we had entering the year, all the positivity that I always try and bring. It's hard to be positive right now. It's difficult. But we're going to get into everything. Get into if there is even hope for an at-large bid, or is it AAC tournament win or bust. I'll have Roman Cleary, the beat writer for the Memphis Tigers of Bluff City Media. He'll be joining in just a moment. Then we'll have Hitman Hoops on the other side of the commercial break. So you definitely want to stay tuned. Don't want to miss that. So I do see that Roman Cleary is on the stream. So let me go ahead and add him here.
What's going on, Francis? How you doing?
Well, man, I miss seeing your face. Miss talking ball with you. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm pretty good, all things considered. Tough one for Memphis here tonight. And as you just said, the at-large hopes are basically over. I wouldn't say completely over just yet, because I find it pretty hard to envision them going 6-0 with 2 wins over Florida Atlantic and not being on the right side of the bubble. But assuming that doesn't happen, yeah, it looks like we're about wrapped up here in terms of the at-large hopes.
And it's such a shame, man. I mean, there was so much excitement in the air, so much hope around this program. And, you don't need me. Y'all don't need me to tell you that they were ranked 10th at some point in the AP poll.
4 weeks ago.
Team had 4 weeks ago, a month ago. I mean, it's crazy how quickly things can change in college basketball and sports in general. An injury to Caleb Mills, and we've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. And now we're looking at a team that's outside of the bubble, and it's going to need a Hail Mary to get an at-large bid. Rome, talk to me about the game. Give me your thoughts on what you saw and any reflections.
I thought it was putrid from Memphis' perspective. I thought it was awful. 16 three-pointers for North Texas. 16 three-pointers in 40 minutes of basketball is unacceptable. I don't think there's no way around that. The overcommitting on defense, absolutely ridiculous. The trapping over and over again, it didn't work. It just seemed like, the definition of insanity for Memphis on the defensive side of the ball. It's just trying the same things over and over again, the switching, the overhelping, the overcommitting. They just tried it over and over and over again. And North Texas was like, cool, we'll just keep firing away. They made 8 shots from inside the 2-point arc.
Yeah.
They made 8 2-point shots and still won this game by 10 points. That is unbelievable. That is crazy. Absolutely crazy. They scored 76 points off of 16 three-pointers and 8 2-point shots. That I don't know what to tell you. And you could see for the few minutes that Memphis actually defended the 3-point line, they were far and away the better team.
No question.
Like far and away the better team when they were actually defending the 3-point line. But whatever they were doing at the end of the first half, it just went away. North Texas, credit to them, they made their adjustments, and the Tigers, they subsequently failed to adjust. Javon Quinterly, horrible. Finished with 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Had that awful 3-point runner in the final minute. That I think killed a lot of Memphis' momentum. I still had a little bit of hope for Memphis when they cut it to a 5-point game with, I want to say, 1:47 to go.
1:47, yeah.
Yeah, when they got to that, I'm thinking at the point, okay, maybe they're still going to find a way to pull it out. But then it just all went to crap from there for the U of M. And yeah, it's a very unfortunate spot they're in right now. But they made their own bed with the 4-game losing streak and all the bad decisions. when it comes to rotations and chemistry or whatever, or what have you, or you can even go all the way back to the summer with building this roster. They've definitely made their own bed here, and they got to live with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, getting to these comments really quick. Shout out Robert Smith here. I don't think this team understands Penny's defense, or they just don't care. And it might be a bit of a I don't know. These are Division I college basketball players. It's hard for me to sit here and say that they don't understand what Penny Hardaway wants to do on defense. But I think the caring part and the effort part, that I think is more of the problem. And as you said just a moment ago, Roman, those defensive rotations, the having the head turned to the off-ball defense, having the head turned to their man in the corner, sucking themselves to a driver going into the lane. That's an inexcusable defense at any level of basketball. That's inexcusable at high school, at AAU level. You just can't do that. You have to.
It's flat out lazy. It's lazy. It is lazy defense. I saw one play towards the beginning of the game where Nick Jourdain just straight up abandoned John Buggs on the left wing, and he was just wide open. Like, he had him, he was guarding him, and then for some godforsaken reason, he makes some weird rotation or something, definitely some sort of miscommunication there. But either way, he just leaves John Buggs wide open for three, and you just saw stuff like that all night. The overcommitting, I'll bring it up over and over again. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's why you're getting all the open threes, because this Memphis defense isn't disciplined. They don't care enough to be disciplined. They're not making the effort to be disciplined. They're just going after the ball, blindly chasing the basketball instead of actually focusing on what North Texas is doing to them over and over again.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. That's a massive problem, and something I want to get into as we go throughout this show. Is the defensive philosophy throughout this game was pretty clear. They sent, and you even heard it from the first half interview from the North Texas coach. He noticed that Penny was sending two men to the ball constantly from the start of the game, trying to put two men on Edwards because Edwards was torching him. And that, if you do that, and you face a disciplined offense that's willing to share the ball and move off ball and actually be a functioning, flowing offense, you're going to get killed. And it happened the entire night. And as you mentioned, Roman, when Memphis did want to play lockdown defense, guard the 3-point line, actually David Jones was doing a decent job on Jason Edwards, playing just straight man-up defense on him, chasing him off ball screens. When Memphis did that, as you said, Roman, they were by far the better team. I mean, they had 7 straight stops in the first half for about a 6-minute period of time. Like, no, Texas couldn't score, and that's what's so irritating and frustrating about this team, because you see the spurts, you see the moments, and then it's gone. It just magically disappears. That's what's just incredibly irritating.
Like, North Texas, they were completely uncomfortable inside the 2-point arc. Inside of the arc, they looked like the most uncomfortable, unorganized offense you'd ever seen. Memphis had them in a real bind. If you take away the 3-point line from North Texas, it's just not a very good offensive team. It's not. But when you give it to them, as we saw tonight, they can really kill you. Hats off to Jason Edwards. He is phenomenal. That's an NBA-type talent right there. I know he's only a 6-foot guard, but he made multiple shots from NBA range tonight. He was advertised as a real bucket getter, one of the best scorers in the American, and that's exactly what Memphis got.
Yeah. As shout out Robert again. Threes and moving the basketball around kills this team. I feel like a lot of top level high school teams that could do that and beat Memphis. I mean, with the way Memphis is playing defense, it's definitely not good. Like I said, those are mistakes that you just can't commit at any level of basketball. I'll get to your comment about Jason Edwards in a second. Just want to get to these comments for a quick second. Shout out Malcolm here, my guy Malcolm. He's blaming the players. Jones just wants to get drafted. Can't blame him. They just don't care. I do want to make one comment about this, Malcolm Roman, because we've talked about David Jones as a defender for a while, and I know, Roman, you're not high on David Jones as a defender, and I've kind of pushed back a little bit, saying that I actually think when he's locked in,
I've never
he
seen
is a good
call
defender.
out David Jones. Actually, I think
Fair
he's
enough.
actually one of the better perimeter defenders this team has, all things considered. Again, this team doesn't have a Lester Quinones. It doesn't have a great perimeter defender anywhere, but David Jones is one of the better ones when he, puts in the effort.
Right. So when he puts in the effort, he locks in. And the problem with, I guess, that concept is playing defense takes a crap ton of effort. It takes a load of effort on the body. It takes so much energy to play really good defense. And then what do you see David Jones on the offensive side? Probably his worst shooting performance all season. And I don't think it's a coincidence, because you're asking David Jones to play tight, man-up defense on Jason Edwards, chasing him around the floor. What does that do? That cues your legs. You can't get lift on your shot. That air ball from David Jones at the end of the game, that wide open three that he just airmails, that's legs. Like he's beat. He's exhausted because he's chasing Edwards on defense around the whole time. It is what it is. It is what it is on the defensive side. Hoop Legend here says we can't guard a part. I think that's a bus. Yeah.
Definitely didn't feel like it's night.
Yeah. But yeah, as you said, Roman, shout out, and as Robert said too, hats off to North Texas. All teams that play us look like all-stars. But yeah, shout out to North Texas. Like you said, Jason Edwards, incredible scorer. He looked like Darius Garland out there to me. Like he kind of just looked like Darius Garland, like a shifty, incredible scorer who can hit from NBA range. I mean, he looked like the real deal. You mentioned earlier, Roman, that you kind of had some hope that the Tigers could make a comeback at the end. What did you notice any specific changes that led to Memphis even having some semblance of hope at the end there?
Again, I had hope anytime they actually decided to guard the three-point line. That's it for me. Whenever they make an effort to guard the three-point line, they were far and away the better team. I brought up that point over and over again. I thought North Texas looked uncomfortable in transition defense as well. I mean, Memphis had plenty of opportunities to take this game away from the Mean Green, even with the 16 made three-pointers. But the effort just wasn't consistent enough. The carrying there, it just didn't come often enough. And that was ultimately Memphis' undoing tonight.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. Shout out to Tyler here. I still, in a sick, delusional way, think this team could win the AAC tournament if we take out FAU.
They definitely can. They definitely can. That's not a sick delusion. That's still a reality. In fact, I still think this team is going to end up making the tournament somehow. I still think it's going to happen. With a team this talented, they were once number 10 in the AP poll. I think they're just going to find a way to do whatever it is they have to do to make the tournament at this point. I'm just not going to put this team in the NIT until I absolutely have to. That's just the way I'm looking at it. But yeah, that may end up just being the AAC tournament at this point, because unless they go 6-0 down the stretch here, at-large bid may be out of the question. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's a delusional thing either. Maybe it's the optimist in me, and maybe it's the optimist in you too, Roman. It's definitely not impossible. They can do it. And as I mentioned at the top, that's the frustrating part about this team. You see the stretches on the defensive side where they look elite. They look like a damn good defensive team. And then for too long of a stretch, it's gone. It just magically disappears. And that, honestly, that was a bit of a worry that I had coming out of halftime, because there's a tendency that Memphis has to start the second half really poorly. That's happened over the past few games and happened again today. And I was a little worried entering halftime because, yes, they got the game back. They were just down by 3. But that break, something switches. It's like they relax a little bit. They're like, all right, we can get back to just not necessarily coasting, but they can relax a little bit. They fought all the way back. They were down by a crap ton of points to start this game. They fight all the way back. They even take a lead, and then they're only down by 3 at halftime. And you don't really see a sense of urgency coming out of half. And you didn't see it tonight. They go down by double digits again, and it's it's just the same old, same old. But like I said, that's the frustrating part. Like Tyler, I'm with you. Roman's with you too. It's not delusional. It's possible, but that's still frustrating. That's still frustrating.
What's even more frustrating for Memphis is, I mean, Reuben Jones and CJ Nolan were still out for this North Texas team. That's two of their starting guards, and they still couldn't get this done. They still lost by double digits. It just a bad night all around. I'm honestly pretty surprised the way that Memphis has looked over the past few games that they lost. I'm surprised. If that's that may be why I'm looking a little bit perplexed here, because I'm just pretty surprised that they lost this one. I know they were favored to lose this one. I know they were underdogs, but usually February is when Penny turns his teams on, and it looked like it was going that way again, and perhaps it still will, but they haven't had to deal with this kind of roadblock this late in the season of the past 2 years. So we'll see if they can still get to the field of 68 despite that.
Yeah. Let's turn to the other side of the ball, Roman, before I get you out of here. Offensively, as Wayne Kelly said in the comments, 21 assists versus Tulane in an impressive win. Just 12 assists tonight, and the shots just weren't falling. And I think, Penny's preached so many times he wants to get to 20 assists per game. I mean, look, that's not going to happen. There's no way that's happening. But he preaches the idea of ball movement. And today I did feel like the offense kind of regressed. It got a little stagnant. It got a little stale. It got a little bit repetitive. So Roman, on the offensive side of the ball, what did you see that either gave you some hope or gave you concern?
Well, the lack of production from both Quinterly and Jones is very concerning, particularly Quinterly, who you just felt like he disappeared. He just felt like he was an invisible fifth man on the court whenever he was out there. And that's just not what you need Javon Quinterly to be. And David Jones, he shot very poorly. I still thought he played a solid game, still finishes with a double-double. But when the scoring output is not where you need it to be from him, that just doesn't matter as much. Considering how good of a scoring defense North Texas has, I still thought Memphis was good enough offensively to win the game. But when you allow 16 three-pointers, that's going to go awry. That should not happen. This is all on the defense for me. I thought they were good enough offensively.
Yeah, I think this loss is more on the defense. I'm with you in that regard. Offensively, I said this on Twitter. I do believe, and I think we all believe, Memphis has the offensive power and the talent to be able to get back into the game. They have the talent, but I do think there's a bit of a concern with, I guess, the predictability of the offense. And in the first half, Memphis really tried to go big, and they pounded North Texas down low. And then North Texas adjusted coming out of half. They did a much better job packing the paint, getting multiple guys down low, staying tall, forcing Memphis to take shots from the perimeter. And North Texas adjusted, and I really don't think Memphis made really good offensive adjustments throughout the game. They didn't. David Jones did not have a shot. Javon Quinterly definitely did not have the shot. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't excuse that offensive performance. I do think it was a little bit stale. I don't think they ran enough plays for David Jones to try and get him into the groove, or JQ as well. They really tried to pack the paint, and North Texas adjusted. And Memphis tried to hit more threes in the second half because they really had to, but also shots just weren't falling.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I'm not saying the offensive performance is great, but I mean, you still were 37% from the field. You still made 9 3-pointers. You still got 16 offensive rebounds. You still scored 24 points in the paint. North Texas is not the greatest offensive team, and I think we saw that when Memphis took away the 3-point line in the rare moments that they did in this game. 16 3-pointers allowed should just never happen. If that's closer to 10, Memphis wins this game. There's no doubt about that. So I'm not saying the offensive performance should be excused, but relatively speaking, I think it was good enough for them to win tonight. But
yeah,
because of how bad the defense was, that kind of went out the window.
Fair enough. Memphis had decent looks, especially in the closing time of this game. Memphis had decent looks to complete the comeback. They just didn't make them. So I get what you're saying. I think this game is definitely more on the defense than the offense. They had decent looks. They just didn't fall. It's basketball. It is what it is. So before I get you out, I know you got to do your recap. So, Roman, give me your player of the game for tonight.
Jason Edwards. I don't think there's any other choice. The dude was an absolute baller. He killed Memphis both in the first and second half. He scored 15 points in both halves. Was 7 of 9 from three-point range and 8 of 16 from the field. Just an unbelievable performance for undoubtedly one of the AAC's best players. I mean, he and PJ Haggerty particularly are two young players in this league that have really impressed me this year. And both have performed really well against Memphis. Edwards having the better performance of the two, obviously. But, yeah, he was great. 6-foot guard, number 2 for the Mean Green. Watch out. He could be a dangerous player for years to come, honestly, if Memphis stays in the AAC long term.
Yeah, I mean that.
Maybe even that. I'll go as far as to say that he looked like the next SMU Kendrick Davis that Memphis may have to deal with moving forward.
Dang, hey, that's high praise. That's high praise. And if he's going to be Kendrick Davis, maybe he's in a Tiger uniform later on in his collegiate career.
Maybe. Who knows?
But no, I'm with you. It's got to be Jason Edwards. He was absolutely incredible. He's my player of the game as well. Roman, thank you, brother. Always appreciate you coming on. I know you got to get to the recap, but look, I'll see you Sunday, and hopefully Memphis can bounce back and go on a 6-game winning streak to give him a shot at an at-large bid. Thank you, bro.
All right. See you next time.
All right, y'all. I'll see everyone on the other side of this commercial break.
But I just want to ask the question. Should Derrick Rose retire?
I mean,
I'm being dead serious. It's nothing against the guy.
I know you are. That's why it sucks.
I'm asking a legit question because he can't stay injury free. I don't know if it, maybe an offseason helps.
Magic 8 ball. All signs point to yes.
Sheesh. That's the sad part of it, too.
It's, again, like, I know a lot of people want him to do the Udonis Haslem thing. Like, that's the extent of Derrick Rose at this point. It's
okay.
Like, he still showed, he had a nice move under the basket tonight, but it's, man, like, he's always hurt for a reason, dude. His body's just, it doesn't have it, right? And if he can fit into Udonis Haslem type role where he's just the bench guy and the vet for the team, then that's awesome.
Tune in to the Grizz 901 postgame show, live after every Grizzlies game on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Memphis basketball. The Bluff City Collective was founded with the sole purpose of helping Memphis basketball continue its long and storied tradition of excellence. The Bluff City Collective will help ensure, as we move further into the new era of college athletics, that we continue to recruit with the best programs in the country. Basketball in Memphis is special. A huge part of what makes it so special is you, Tiger Nation. As a former player and now coach who was born and raised in this city, I know that better than anyone. Without your unwavering support, we would not be where we are today. That is why I'm asking all of you to join me in supporting the Bluff City Collective. The city's team needs you. I need you. Please go to bluffcitycollective.com to make a donation or become a member today. The time is now. We are not satisfied with just being good. We want to be great. Let's bring a national championship to Memphis. Go Tigers, go.
All right, we are back. So let me go ahead and add Hitman Hoops to the stage. Hitman.
What's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear. To everybody, again, it's Hitman Hoops. If you follow Memphis Tigers basketball on Twitter, you see this dude everywhere. He has the great film breakdown. He has the best videos, best highlight mixtapes. Dude's amazing. But if you know Hitman, you know he ain't gonna have his camera on. So I don't want to hear people in the comments saying, "Where's his camera? Why can't we see him?" Like, respect my man's privacy. That's all I ask. I'll always vouch for you, brother. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I don't even know what I just watched. I missed the first 10 minutes of the first half. I was at a dinner. I come back and I quickly get acclimated to the game on Synergy. I just rewatch the highlights. First 2 threes. I look at the box score. They've got 15 points. They're up 15-4. That's when I first started watching the game. They're up 15-4, 5 made threes. And I'm like, how the hell did this happen? And I go in the film, the first 3. They triple team a guy in the post who's not a post scorer. He's a facilitator. They triple team a guy in the post, kicks it out to a wide open guy on the perimeter for a 3. I mean, he could have sat there all day and shot the 3. That's how wide open he was. Next possession, they had one in transition. Miscommunication on switching. Easy 3 in the corner. The next one, it passed it to the guy on the wing, pass it back to the ball handler. You had Jourdain scrambling to the paint, left the guy wide open on the wing for a wide open 3. It's just, Roman hit on this a lot, is not defending the 3-point line, but fans are going to ask, why aren't they defending the 3-point line? And
right.
all you have to do is take a look back at those first 3 threes that they made, and you'll see the basic breakdown and not even fundamentals, but it's just communication, like having your guy. I'm trying not to cuss. Sorry, having your guy. Having your guy. I mean, last game their defense looked amazing in that first half. They were switching aggressively. They were calling out every screen. They were shooting the gaps in screens when they needed to, and they were tagging guys. And when they were tagging, they would go under. I mean, they just their fundamentals were amazing last game. And then I watched this game, and there's 5 threes in the first 6 minutes. That's just ridiculous to a team that's a slow paced team that. I mean, you don't typically see North Texas making 16 threes. So no. Again, Roman hit on it. 3-point defense was brutal, and that's what cost them the game today. And that's why I'm pissed off. Looking at the film, it's just so easy. They're easy fixes. They're easy fixes.
And I feel like we've been saying this for months, bro. Like we've been saying this for a while. Yeah. The 3-point defense, the lack of communication. The lack of fighting over screens, the lack of being on the same page, tuning your head to your guy. If it seemed like every time North Texas, one of their guards would drive downhill, the off-ball defenders would just get sucked to them automatically. Without even caring about their guy. They would just forget that they're leaving a guy wide open in the short corner. And so that was a big issue. Another one, if there was a loose ball at any point in time on the defensive side, you saw like 3 Tigers going for that loose ball. And then on one hand, effort, you want to play with effort, dive for loose ball, all that stuff. That's one hand. The other hand, if you don't get that loose ball, it's an easy swing, open 3. And that happened countless times today. It was just, like you said, not necessarily fundamentals, but I think it's like the basics of defense. I said it at the start. This type of defense wouldn't be acceptable at the AAU level. Like it wouldn't. That's not gonna fly. Yeah. Like it's just that's stuff that these are D1 basketball players. It's not that in my mind, it's not that they don't understand how to play proper defense. It's just it's all mental. It's all effort. It's all up here. And I just don't know. When I had you on last time, we talked about the same issues on the defensive side.
Yeah.
How did you feel, Hitman, about what seems to be Penny's defensive philosophy today to send to the ball and continuously pressure the ball instead of sitting back and trusting their half-court defense? How did you feel about that?
I mean, the way I see his defense, right? It's clear what he's trying to do. He's trying to take away the paint. That's why you saw lineups out there at times you saw Dandridge and Jordan Brown out there at the same time at some points of the game. I mean, you saw at one point Pierre Tomlin and Dandridge on the floor, Pierre Tomlin and Jourdain on the floor. And, I mean, he's playing big lineups, right? People are going to ask why he's playing big lineups. His defensive philosophy is to take away that paint. I mean, they're fine. All last season, I mean, he was fine with giving up the 3. I mean, that's been his main defensive philosophy. Like, let him shoot the 3. It's not a high percentage shot as inside looks are. I mean, that's just the way he plays defense. A lot of other coaches aren't like that. A lot of them, they work on closeouts in practice. they run lineups to where they prevent the three. Penny just, I mean, for some reason he just doesn't do that. Will he look to switch that? I don't know. But the thing is, it's not helping these guys that they're just adding more and more wrinkles to the defense each week. I mean, we saw it. We saw a 1-3-1 at one point. We saw a collapsed 1-3-1. We saw a 2-3 at one point. We saw, full court 1-2-2 trap press. We saw, half court, as you mentioned, a half court trap, sending two guys with the ball. We saw that at multiple points in the game, just adding wrinkles to the defense to guys. I mean, let's be honest, they're not the best defenders in terms of IQ, just from what I've seen on film. Yeah. And they're not the best in terms of communication, as I mentioned before. And I mean, all you have to do is go back and watch the first three made threes. I mean, just lack of communication. But his philosophy is to give up the paint. Now fans are going to ask, why doesn't he switch that? And I don't know. I mean, that's just how he's taught his players. That's how he runs his lineups. That's why he has the rotations that he does. It's centered around what he wants to do on the defensive end, and that's to prevent easy looks in the paint. And today it just didn't work out. I mean, he was comfortable to let North Texas shoot 28 threes. He didn't really adjust. You didn't see his rotations adjust to that. In fact, deeper in the second half, he continued running two big lineups. It's just it's what he wants to do defensively. And I mean, that's why what he wants to do defensively affects every other area of the game. It affects why David Jones has 16 rebounds. Go back and watch the film. I mean, you got guys hedging on ball screens 5 feet from the three-point line, your bigs. So that leaves a big on the perimeter. And I'm the only guy to attack the glass is David Jones. And that's what, again, it comes back to defense and what he's trying to do defensively. That's why you see what you're seeing out in the court. Rotations, looking at the box score, why David Jones is 16 rebounds. It affects every area on the court. So,
yeah, I agree. I well said, Hitman. Very, very well said. The defensive philosophy of packing the paint and allowing teams to shoot the three. In college basketball, that's not a horrible defensive philosophy because, not a lot of college teams are that good from shooting three. Now, if you do that in the NBA, that's a totally different story. Like, it's a totally different thing. But in college, most college teams aren't chock full of shooters. So that philosophy of giving up the three, it makes more sense in college for sure. And Penny's found success with that philosophy in the past, as we know. And today, as we talked about, it was they allowed the 3-point shot, and North Texas hit them. They hit them. Now, does that excuse the rotations? No. Does that excuse a lack of communication? Absolutely not. But as we mentioned at the top, credit North Texas too for hitting the shots. They hit the shots, and Memphis couldn't hit anything. They couldn't score. I actually think they generated decent looks. I don't think their offense was great, and I talked about it with Roman earlier, but they did generate some decent looks. Shots just weren't falling. I do want to get to what you said though about the bigs being on the perimeter, because there was multiple possessions about halfway through the second half, and I'm sure you noticed this too, Hitman. Malcolm Dandridge would be out on the perimeter because they had a switch, and JQ was guarding the North Texas big in the paint, and I'm yelling at my laptop, please try and switch JQ off the big. Like, do something. Don't just let Malcolm stay on the perimeter. Try and figure out a way to get the matchups to where they should be. And it just felt like there's either a confusion, lack of communication, or all the above, on the defensive side tonight. And it's so irritating because you see moments where they are really good on the defensive side. I talked about in the first half, they had that stretch where they held North Texas scoreless, or at least no made field goals for around 5-6 minutes. Like they were good, but for whatever reason, man, it just changes. It just changes so quickly. Let me ask you just really briefly. You mentioned on the Discord, about how entering this game, things were feeling pretty good in the locker room. Vibes were up. Vibes were up. Do you have any idea if anything changed, or if tonight was
No, not
just a one-off?
yeah. I mean, look, the easiest way to affect how the locker room feels about things is winning or losing. When they were on
Yeah,
that losing streak, everyone saw it. Guys were out for themselves, selfish on the court. They weren't bought into what the team wanted to do. But coming off a 3-game winning streak, things are finally starting to click for the guys. I mean, they just came off one of their most complete games in conference play. Played what JQ said, they played for a full 30 minutes, right?
yeah,
Vibes were high in the locker room, and guys were finally bought in. It just I feel like when this team faces any sort of adversity, they crumble and they go back to their selfish ways.
mm,
And we saw that. I mean, they went out. North Texas went out to a 15-4 run to start the game. And, Memphis clawed back. They ended up taking the lead 26-25, or there was
yeah.
25-24, I think.
Some of that
And
Jordan into three. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And again, I mean, they crumbled. I mean, what JQ put it best, consistency, right? They crumble in the face of adversity. Just consistently do what you're supposed to do. North Texas isn't going to start the game and finish the game 100% from 3, right? Just continue to do what you're supposed to do. And I thought the staff should have done a better job at adjusting their defense. Again, I mentioned
right.
trying to take away the paint, their defense. I mean, you mentioned bigs being switched on the perimeter. That's because of, again, the philosophy. They switch everything on ball screens. It all comes
Yep.
down to ball screen defense. And Memphis's rebounding issues this whole season have been because of their ball screen defense. They switch bigs on
Hmm.
the perimeter, and their bigs are in the paint to get the rebounds. I mean, it's that simple. So again, adjustments need to be made, but it doesn't help when you're consistently changing things game in and game out on the defensive end. You don't really
Yeah,
have any basic principles to fall back on when adversity hits. And that's why you guys, I mean, that's why you see guys, kind of take over for themselves, and you see the selfish ways out there because they don't have those principles to fall back on. And that's part of what I'm seeing out there. But again, I mean, vibes were high coming into this game. They're riding a 3-game winning streak, and I mean, they crumbled out there, and now their at-large hopes are pretty much up. I mean, I'm sure we'll see some apathy from some players on the team. Hopefully not. I mean, we've got who do we play next? I know we play FAU coming up at home. Who do we play before FAU?
So the next game is at SMU
Okay.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a quad one, I assume, at SMU.
quad one. It's
Yeah.
a must win. I mean, let's be real. It's a must win game.
Yeah, it's just
They have to win this game.
how do you respond? I'm curious to see how they respond, and
Yeah,
I hope there's not apathy in that locker room, but I'm sure there is.
yeah.
And again, I mean,
Oh,
that's gonna be on the staff. It's gonna be on the staff to get them to buy in again, and it's gonna be hard because you're facing adversity in the season, and I mean, they thought they were done. They thought they were done losing, and you
yeah.
just lost again. So
Yeah, before we look ahead a little bit more, I do want to talk about that offensive side of the ball as well. I talked about it with Roman a little bit, and shout out Wayne Kelly for his comment here. Most of the Tigers' offense comes with defenders right in front of them, which forces them to shoot over the defense. It would be nice to see them getting defenses off balance every now and again for easy buckets. I said this to Roman about the offense. It just looked a little too predictable. It was clear in the first half they were going big. They wanted to take advantage of the size mismatch, the length mismatch that Memphis had, and that's partly how they clawed back into the game. They did a really good job packing the paint, scoring down low, and getting themselves back into the game. And then in the second half, North Texas adjusted. They did a much better job on the interior defense, staying tall, sending bodies. They did a better job on the glass in the second half as well, limiting offensive rebounds for Memphis. And it just looked a bit too predictable. I didn't see a lot of plays and sets run for David Jones. I didn't see many pin down screens, any actions to get guys open looks. It just seemed a bit too one-dimensional from my perspective. Hitman, how did the offense look to you tonight?
yeah, so I went back, and as you were talking, I watched the first possession, the first offensive possession of the game, because that typically tells you what Memphis is, what they want to do the entire game. And first offensive possession of that game was a shot clock violation. Javon Quinterly. They sent a double JQ. Guys just stood in the corner. I mean, you got to move to the ball. I mean, it's simple fundamentals on offense. You got to move to the ball. Again, it's just guys not being bought in. There's no really principle to fall back on offensively. And I mean, you've relied on David Jones, his tough shot making this entire season. JQ's tough shot making this entire season. And I mean, you're just not going to have that every night. So what do you do when you don't have that, right? I mean, you fall back on actions and sets that you have. Just basic fundamentals, 4-out system to where, I mean, you're getting guys moving, you're getting cuts, backdoor cuts. I mean, you're getting guys mismatches in the paint. I mean, when you have two bigs out there, that's what you have to do. You don't have two bigs out there to I don't want to shit on Brown's defense, but again, you don't have Jordan Brown out there for defense. Let's be serious.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you don't.
He can only play and drop, and you don't have him out there playing drop against a team that made 16 threes and shot over 50%. You just don't have that, right? And again, you have to, if you're going to play Jordan Brown, feed him the ball, get him the ball in the post. If you're going to play two bigs at once, you have to run some high-low, which they did. They did run some high-low. But again, I mean, entry passes, basic fundamentals, entry passes were off. I mean, you put guys in a bad positions, double teamed on the baseline, nowhere to go with the ball. Again, the offense stalled multiple times because guys are just, they're stationary on the wing, and you just can't have that. And again, I mean, there's no principles to fall back on defensively. There's no principles to fall back on offensively. And I mean, there are deeper issues at for why that is. I mean, we can point to roster construction. We can point to rotations. Guys don't fit out there when they're playing. I mean, you had Pierre Tomlin and Dandridge on the court at once. It just, why do you have that? It doesn't make sense. And I mean, there's deeper issues in this. I could get into a whole spiel about, recruiting in the offseason, passing on guys that want to be here, passing on guys that are succeeding at other colleges. But I mean, that'll probably take up the whole time. I don't want to get into a rant. But again, back to your question about offensively. I mean, they just need principles to fall back on, and they don't. I mean, they've relied on tough shot making this entire season. And what happens when you don't make those tough shots? What happens when you get tagged with two defenders on your best players? You're trying to, I mean, you only have one facilitator out there. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to defend against that. I mean, again, you put pressure on JQ to force other guys to create, and other guys just aren't comfortable with creating out there. I mean, that's why it would help tremendously to have Caleb Mills out there, another ball handler on the court. But again, I mean, we don't have him. So,
yeah. I mean, you're talking about the lineup combinations. I try and make note of the lineups I see coming out of timeouts. So like some really maybe interesting is the wrong way to put it. Ashton, Jaquan, Malco, DJ, Tomlin, and then you see Jordan Brown and Jonathan Pierre sub in after that, and that was in the first half. And then some other just really weird line: Ashton, Jaden, JQ, Malco, and Jordan Brown. I mean it's tough. It's just, I don't know. It's tough. You gotta play the hand you're dealt, and this is the hand that Penny Hardaway's dealt. And I do trust that the coaching staff, that they're doing the best they can to find lineups to figure something out. But it kind of goes to what we've been talking about for the past few weeks too. Stick to like shorten that rotation a bit. Stick to guys who fit the scheme, fit the system, who are willing to play hard, willing to play with effort. And it's just not something that we've seen. We still have yet to see that rotation get fully tightened up. I don't know off the top of my head how many people played, but I'm sure it's probably double digits. I don't know off the top of my head. But it's just, we're just going to keep saying the same stuff until we see a change. And it's got to change fast. It's got to change fast. They go at SMU. You mentioned that loss of Caleb Mills. So shout out to a comment I saw in the beginnings from CJ, the Memphis kid. I believe losing Caleb Mills was a huge loss for this team. And we've talked about the Caleb Mills loss at length, ad nauseum at this time. It was such a big deal to lose a guy of his caliber. Hitman, I thought about this recently. Let me know what you think. Losing Caleb Mills is a bit like losing Desmond Bain for the Grizzlies. You lose a secondary ball handler. You lose a guy who can hit open threes. Obviously, not the rate of Desmond Bain.
I mean, you lost your best on ball defender. You lost your
You
best
lose.
on ball defender.
You lose a talented on-ball defender. You lose a guy who can also take a load off of Javon Quinterly as primary ball handler. Desmond Bain did that a lot, taking the load off of John Morant as a ball handler. And I think it's kind of losing that to the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, losing Caleb Mills was such a big deal, and we talked about it at length. I mean, looking ahead briefly, Hitman, do you think that like Roman said, this team that they're going to find a way to make the NCAA tournament? With the roster, with everything the way it currently is for the Memphis Tigers. Hitman, do you agree or do you disagree?
From a fan perspective, I I still have hope, but from what I've seen on the court, I'm pessimistic about it. And again, I mean, there's one main reason. Everyone knows it. It's rotations. Why is Penny playing the players the way that he is? Why is he playing so many players? And again, I mean, it comes back to his coaching philosophy. He sees guys not hustling out there, instant sub, right? And I mean, again, every coach is going to agree with that, right? You guys not hustling, get him out of there. But I mean, there's a deeper issue to this, and it comes around, with the environment the NIL's kind of created, and that's with the background noise, right? I mean, you've got agents in these kids' ears. You've got them telling them, "Hey, I mean, you need to make the most of every opportunity that you can out there." So, I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, are they going to make that extra pass for a better look, or are they going to take the look themselves? And again, you've got noise in the players' ear, but you've also got noise in the coach's ear. I mean, Penny made promises to these kids when he was recruiting them that they would get the touches and the minutes that he promised to them. And again,
look at Jordan Brown.
Exactly. I'll get to that. And every coach in the country, I mean, they understand this. When you're recruiting players, I mean, you overpromise. I mean, that's just how it is. And I mean, players and agents see through that. But again, money talks. Some coaches are more persuasive than others. Let's just put it that way. But again, I mean, you brought up Jordan Brown. It's a perfect example, right? You're bringing back Jordan Brown into a team that already has a bunch of guys that feel like they need the ball in their hands. I mean, he wants the ball in Jaquan Wan, he wants the ball in his hands, right? David Jones needs the ball in his hands. I mean, he's the best player on the team. Javon Quinterly, really your only creator and facilitator.
That's it.
Exactly. I mean, he needs the ball in his hands. And you're talking about losing a guy like Mills. I mean, he understood how to play without the ball in his hands. This is a guy that volunteered to come off the bench. He knows how to play without the ball in his hands. I mean, that's just someone you need out there. It's a leader on the court. And again, I mean, he's a glue guy. That's the perfect term to describe him. He's a glue guy. And when you lose that, again, getting back to the point, when you lose that type of player out there, I mean, this is what you'll see on the court. You'll see, again, guys not moving without the ball. Again, I just watched the first possession back, and I saw a shot clock violation, a double team, 6 seconds left, and you've got 2 guys standing in the corner, 3 guys on the opposite side of the court. And it just doesn't make sense. And people are going to point back to the rotations, but there's one on the surface, which is guys aren't hustling and buying in and doing what Penny wants them to do out there, right? I mean, he's an instant sub. He's one of those guys. I mean, he's got people. And there's that deeper issue that I hinted at with the type of environment the NIL created out there. You've got agents in the players' ear. You've also got agents in the coach's ear. So you've got to, as a coach, as Penny, he's got the toughest job in the country. I mean, he's got to deal with players, agents, fans, and the media. So again, I mean, it's a tough job. And again, losing Mills is just, it's a heartbreaker for this team that needs someone out there that knows how to move without the ball, that knows that he can succeed as a player without having the ball in his hands.
Yeah, as Coach Kelly just said, I agree with Hitman's offensive assessment. I do too, man. I'm fully with you. I said this a while ago, and I got I'm not sure if people fully understood what I was trying to say at the time, but unfortunately, I've been proven right about this. With the loss of Caleb Mills, there is no other playmaker on this team. There's no one else who can create plays for other people. You just get besides Javon Quinley, besides JQ, you just have a bunch of guys, as you said, who need the ball in their hands, not to create for others, but to create for themselves. And that's just not it. That's not the equation to a successful offense. You need glue guys, as you said. You need guys who are unselfish, who are willing to make that extra pass, play for the team, not for themselves. And those guys are hard to find. As we know, those guys are very difficult to find. They're few and far between in sports in general, not just basketball and sports, people who are willing to play for the team and not themselves. Those are the dime a dozen. And Memphis had that guy in Caleb Mills, and he's unfortunately not a part of this team anymore. And as soon as that injury happened, I was really worried about the playmaking. And it's unfortunately weird. It's very, very ugly head. That there's still turnover issues. I mean, tonight Memphis had 15 turnovers, and to be 100% fair to the team, that 15 is not nearly as bad as it could have been. They had 8 turnovers in I don't know. I think it was 10 minutes. They looked like it looked horrible. They were on track for a 20 turnover game. So at least they kind of cleaned it up on that side. But man, it's tough. You see guys with the ball in their hands. If there's no JQ, they're just not good passers. This is not even a diss. They're just not good passers. I'm not even talking about as a playmaker, as a passer. They're just not good. Like you mentioned, Memphis tries to run high lows. And that high low is Malcolm Dandridge trying to feed the ball to Jordan Brown or a Naquan Tallman. And Dandridge is just not that good of a passer, with his touch and he's just not that good. Jaquan Wallen is not that good of a passer.
Yeah. And you talk about sorry to cut you off, but I just want to hit on this point real quick. You talk about passing, right? There are multiple elements of passing that you have to understand as a player. You have to understand the angle at which players pass, the tendencies of when they're going to pass, the speed at which they pass, the positioning of players inside when they pass it. And you just can't understand that, right? When you have constant rotations, constant different lineups out there, different guys, different roles when you're even out there, it's hard to understand that. I mean, it's just the little things that fans don't really think about, just the elements of passing is what I said, just understanding angles. And that's why we've seen entry passes are hard for this. They're hard for this team. You don't see many backdoor cuts because guys, they don't understand the tendencies of players. Backdoor cuts they take timing and chemistry. And it's hard to build that when you don't have the same lineups out on the court in game situations. It's hard to do that. So again, I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to throw that point in there. But it's important to understand that too, just the elements of passing. It's not passing the ball to a guy. There's multiple things you have to understand is what I mentioned: angles, speed, position, just to name a few. So
absolutely. It's like a quarterback and a wide receiver. That shit takes reps. That takes time to get on the same page. Like we sit here and watch a football game and think it's all hunky dory, or you're just throwing a football to a guy. No way. That couldn't be farther from the truth of how difficult it is to throw a football to a guy. It could not be further from the truth. Same thing, like you said, it's about timing, knowing tendencies, placement. When are they going to spin? When are they going to jab? When are they going to make their move to score? Or if they're going to wait for people to cut? Like you just don't know.
And that connects back to a point you said earlier in here, which was about help defense. You mentioned that guys are just helping on the perimeter, right? And that's another thing. You have to on defense. It goes with understanding, passing, right? It feeds directly into defense. And I'll explain how. Defensively, when you're helping guys, you have to know how guys are going to defend. Are they going to defend? Let me think of the word I describe. Are they going to defend to where, they purposely blow by their guys? They tag people on cuts. How do they position themselves inside? Where do they find themselves on rebounding? And again, it's understanding those little things, and it's hard. That stuff is hard. It takes reps, like you said. It takes reps. How are you going to get those reps when you're constantly changing rotations, constantly changing lineups? And again, in crunch time, I feel like in most of these conference games, you've had a different lineup out there in crunch time, a different lineup. in the time that it matters most, you have different players out there. And again, they don't understand the little. I point to the fundamentals. These fundamentals are what I'm talking about: help defense, passing, cutting, moving without the ball on defense as well. That speaks to rotations. Moving without the ball on offense, that helps with cutting and the free flowing movement of the ball. All of this leads back to what? It leads back to rotations.
Yeah.
Guys not being out there on the same page. Why is that? Because they don't have the reps in the game situation. You're constantly changing lineups. You're constantly allocating different roles to these players. And that's pretty much the deepest issue that that I can pretty much see on paper without going into too much detail behind the scenes stuff. So
yeah. Hey man, I'm with you. You're making awesome points. I'm totally in agreement with you. So look, man, I think we've hit it all. I think we've talked about the issues that Memphis really has right now on the defensive and offensive side. These are real problems, and as I said earlier, I feel like I just keep saying this. They gotta fix these issues sooner rather than later. They go at SMU Sunday afternoon, and that's a quad one game. And if they lose this, they're not gonna. They need this win. There's no point for me to sugarcoat this.
yeah.
They need this win.
Yep.
They need to win this basketball game. It's not a want. It's not like, oh, they can lose and they'll be all right. No. They need to win this game. This is like do or die. Honestly, these last 6 games, the NCAA tournament starts now for the Memphis Tigers in these last 6 games. You lose any of them, you're out. You're out of the tournament. You're gone. Like otherwise, you got to win the AAC tournament, which does
it matter if Memphis? Let's be honest. If Memphis wins these next 6 games, or there's 6, you said, right? 6 games?
Yeah, 6.
If Memphis wins these next 6 games, are they even guaranteed an at-large bid? Let's be honest. It comes to a point to where you're pretty much playing for momentum or seeding in the AAC tournament, because I don't know if there's a route to where Memphis still has an at-large bid. I just don't know. Even if they win these next 6 games, I think it obviously depends on how other teams in the bubble do, but
right.
I don't know if there's a route to where they win. If they win these next 6 games, there's an at-large. So I think it might be AAC tournament or bust, to where these last few games you might see Penny, as much as we've seen already, trying out rotations and roles and stuff to prepare for the AAC tournament, because he knows that that's pretty much their Super Bowl's AAC tournament. If they don't win that, they're not in. I don't know if is there a point to where there's pretty much apathy in the team for these next 6 games? Because do these next 6 games even matter? That's where I'm at right now. I don't what do you think about that?
I think they matter. Look, I'm not a bracketologist by any stretch of the imagination, but these games still do matter. You still have the 2 FAU games. You still have at SMU. All these teams that Memphis has left on their schedule, besides East Carolina, although to be fair, I don't know. I can check the standings in a second. But at SMU, Charlotte, 2 games against FAU, then UAB at home. All those teams are ahead of Memphis in the AAC. They're all ahead of Memphis in every single metric, blah, blah, blah. And you win those 5, you go at East Carolina, you win that game too. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Memphis is 100% in the NCAA tournament, but it's the only chance Memphis has at an at-large bid.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. That's the only chance. Memphis loses any of these remaining 6 games, that at-large bid is gone. They have to win the AAC tournament, which is why I said that the NCAA tournament basically starts now for the Memphis Tigers. It's single elimination, one and done. That's it. That's it for Memphis. And so it's possible, but it's whether or not it's likely, that's probably a different story. But Hitman, look, bro, I appreciate you so much for coming on. You're such an insightful person to talk basketball.
Thank you, man.
I really appreciate you a ton. Anything you want to plug before I get you out of here?
I want to leave on a positive note. For some reason, I think that Memphis is going to sweep FAU for some reason. I just have that feeling.
Ooh.
But again, I that's the thing. Like I feel more confident about facing FAU because I just know that it sounds ridiculous, but I just know that the team plays better against better teams, if that makes sense. They play better against teams that. I mean, again, they've had these games circled on the calendar the whole year, both these FAU games, and I for some reason I think we'll see a different Memphis team out there for those games.
All right. Hey, I hope so. I mean, I hope so. As someone who covers
on
the
a
team,
positive note, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. As a dude cover the team, and as a person who's been a fan of the Tigers since I could remember, like since my brain could form memories. I hope so, definitely. But Hitman, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I'll send us to a commercial break, and I'll see you quickly on the other side.
I just want to ask the question: should Derrick Rose retire?
I mean,
I'm being dead serious. It's nothing against the guy.
I know you are. That's why it sucks.
I'm asking a legit question because he can't stay injury free. I don't know if it, maybe an off season helps.
Magic 8 ball. All signs point to yes.
Sheesh. That's the sad part of it too.
It's again, like I know a lot of people want him to do the Udonis Haslam thing. Like that's the extent of Derrick Rose at this point. It's
okay.
Like, he still showed. I mean, he had a nice move under the basket tonight, but it's like he's always hurt for a reason, dude. His body's just it doesn't have it, right? And if he can fit into Udonis Haslam type role where he's just the bench guy and the vet for the team, then that's awesome.
Tune in to the Grizz 901 postgame show, live after every Grizzlies game on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Memphis basketball. The Bluff City Collective was founded with the sole purpose of helping Memphis basketball continue its long and storied tradition of excellence. The Bluff City Collective will help ensure, as we move further into the new era of college athletics, that we continue to recruit with the best programs in the country. Basketball in Memphis is special. A huge part of what makes it so special is you, Tiger Nation. As a former player and now coach who was born and raised in this city, I know that better than anyone. Without your unwavering support, we would not be where we are today. That is why I'm asking all of you to join me in supporting the Bluff City Collective. The city's team needs you. I need you. Please go to bluffcitycollective.com to make a donation or become a member today. The time is now. We are not satisfied with just being good. We want to be great. Let's bring a national championship to Memphis. Go Tigers, go.
All right, y'all. So as I close out another episode of Tigers Live presented by the Bluff City Collective, let's look ahead. I mean, as I mentioned to Hitman at the end of our segment, they got SMU Sunday at SMU. They have Charlotte at home, Florida Atlantic at home, East Carolina at East Carolina, UAB at home, and then Florida Atlantic to close the year in Florida Atlantic's arena. So taking a glance at the AAC standings, every team that Memphis will face besides East Carolina are ranked ahead of the Memphis Tigers in the American. So if they can find a way to win these last 6 games, that's the only way Memphis has any hope at an at-large bid. That aside, they win these 6 games, then it improves their seeding, in entering the AAC tournament. Maybe they get a first-round bye. We all know how important that is to get in any conference tournament. Maybe they can position themselves for that. But otherwise, I said it before, I'll say it again, y'all. The NCAA tournament for the Memphis Tigers starts now. They lose at SMU on Sunday, it's over. It's absolutely over. They're not making the NCAA tournament. They have to win the AAC conference tournament in early or mid-March. They have to. But if they find a way to win these last 6 games, that keeps their hopes alive. And look, all we can do is hope. All we can do is hope. I'm a big Ted Lasso guy, as some of y'all know. It's the hope that kills you, though, and hopefully it doesn't end up killing us as people who want to see the Memphis Tigers succeed. And we'll see. We'll see if they can make some changes. They can start playing better basketball. But all right, everybody, that's it for me for Tigers Live. If y'all are watching me, go to the Grizz 901 post-game show. I see the Grizzlies got a huge win against the Milwaukee Bucks. I know it's like, is a win a loss or is a loss a win? Because we wanted to get a good draft pick. Who knows? Rather way, still a huge win. Head over to the Grizz 901 post-game show as soon as this is over. I'm Francis Carlotta. I'll see y'all Sunday. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tigers Live. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.